Right, welcome to our lecture, Starting Your Essay, Shitty First Drafts. So let's start by talking about what is a writer. Writers are just people who put their thoughts down on paper so they can share it with others. You are a writer, you've done this in high school, you can do it now, the point is just to get better at it. Writing is not a natural ability, it's a skill, you have to practice it. Just like with any sport or musical instrument or anything like that, you gotta practice or you won't get better, and that's why you're in this class. So once you start to get started, a couple of rules. Don't panic. You are not going to die just because you have to write this paper. This is not the worst thing that's ever happened to you. So just stay calm, be relaxed. Pick something you'll enjoy writing about. So I know I've given you a topic, a basic topic, but within that topic, you've got some amount of room for deciding what you have to say about that topic, how you want to approach that specific topic. So make sure that whatever you choose to write about, or however you choose to write about it, that it interests you. Don't sit down and write it and be bored with it, because if you're bored writing it, I'm probably going to be bored reading it. So here are some tips for getting started. We're going to talk about writing rituals and writing schedules in just a second. Another thing that I want to be clear about though is make sure you understand the assignment. Read the instructions on the assignment sheet that I gave you carefully. Ask if you have any doubts or questions. Don't assume you know what I'm looking for. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Let me know. That's what I'm here for if you have anything that you're not sure about. Alright, so writing rituals. So this has to do with when you first sit down to write your paper, what should you be doing to prepare? You want to, first of all, pick the time of day when you're most alert. So if you're a morning person, write in the morning. If you are a night owl, you can write at night. If you're a night owl, don't get up early in the morning and try to write your paper, because your brain is going to be too tired to focus. Music, excuse me, TV, silence. Some people like to write with music in the background. Some people want the TV on. Some people want complete silence. That's totally up to your preference. Snacks, have some food there, so that if you get hungry, the food is right there and you don't have an excuse to get up and leave and go get some food. Caffeine. So some people work better with it. Coffee, tea, Red Bull is terrible for you, but under dire circumstances, sometimes it's what gets you through writing your paper. If that's you, then I guess go ahead and do it. Sheet of paper or computer screen. Don't feel like in our modern techno age, you have to start on a computer screen. You can start with a sheet of paper, just jotting down some ideas, and we'll talk more about that a little later. Get rid of distractions. So if you have a noisy roommate, go to the library, go to an empty classroom on campus. Do whatever you have to do to get the right scenery, I can say, to get you inspired and to get you to the point where you are ready to write your paper. Again, I want to stress, relax. It's okay. Your brain works better when you're relaxed than when you're stressed out. Take breaks. If you've been writing for a while and you're to the point where you feel like you're ready to bang your head against a wall, it's probably time to take a break. Set goals for yourself. Reward yourself when you reach them. So rather than sitting down and writing your whole paper all at once, tell yourself, I'm going to write a page, and then I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to go eat, or I'm going to go watch a TV show, or I'm going to get on Facebook and play around. This is going to help you stay focused. If your brain knows, okay, I'm focused right now, but in a little while I'll get to take a break and do something fun, then it's going to be easier for you to make yourself reach those goals. So here's your first discussion question. 5-minute writing prompt in about 3 to 5 sentences, and it might take you more than 5 minutes, it might take you less, that's just a ballpark. I want you to describe your own personal writing or homework ritual, what you've done in the past that's worked for you. If you've never done it before, think about what you might want to do. What ritual type things will you do when you sit down to write this paper? So I want you to hit pause and I want you to answer this writing prompt. Okay, so let's move on if you've done your first 5-minute writing prompt. Procrastination, let's talk about it. It's your worst enemy. You have to force yourself if that's what it takes. This class is part of life. It's just like going to work. It's just like taking out the garbage. You know, whatever other chores you have in life that you have to do to maintain a decent existence, that's what this class is. So even if it's a chore, know that you've got to get through it, and know that the sooner you get through it, the sooner you can move on and be done with it. So I want you to read this to yourself and think about it. I know this is a little crass, a little vulgar, but it kind of hits students where they live when they read it. So I want you to think about this. Procrastination is bad, and you're in college now. It might have been okay in high school. It's not going to work for you anymore. It's not going to work in college. It's not going to work for you when you get into the workplace. Break yourself of the habit now. So here's your second discussion question. Again, another basically 5-minute writing prompt. So in one paragraph, about 5 to 8 sentences for this one, I want you to talk about the ways that you procrastinate. What do you do, or what do you let get in the way when you're supposed to be doing something productive, like your schoolwork? And then I want you to tell me about a time when you procrastinated and what the outcome was. This is, this can be from high school, this can be, something, maybe you're supposed to do something for your parents, whatever. Something where you were supposed to do a thing and you put it off and it didn't get done. And then tell me what happened. If you're one of those rare people who never procrastinate, I want you to tell me why. How did you become this awesome person who does not procrastinate? And how can we emulate you? All right, so hit pause, take about 5 minutes or so to complete this writing prompt, and then we'll move on. Okay. So getting started with your paper. Writer's block, it's a real thing, but here are some strategies to try and help you get over it. First of all, you don't have to write your paper from beginning to end. You can start in the middle, you can start at the end, wherever you need to start. If you sit down and you're like, oh, I've got some ideas, but this is not how I want to start the paper, that's fine. Get it down, you can figure out the introduction later. Brainstorming and pre-writing activities can help. Lists, free writing, map and cluster, those sort of things. And we'll talk a little more about those later. There's a section in Bridging the Difference called Getting Started, Invention and Organization. It's just a little 2-page section. You can read that to help you get started. Look at other examples and use them as models. So I'm going to give you sample papers for every paper we do in this class. I'm going to give you professionally written examples. So use those, look at them, analyze them, try and figure out how they do what they do and how you can emulate that. So if you're having problems with your introduction, look at the sample paper, look at the published papers and go, okay, well, how does this author start their paper? How can I take what they've done and use the same strategies but make it say what I want it to say? So this is going to be really helpful for you. If all else fails, talk it out. See if you can bounce ideas off of a friend, a roommate, or you can always go to the Writing Center. That's in HPAC 136. So you can call them, make an appointment, go in, take your assignment sheet so that they can see it. But if you have no draft, you can still go in and go, I have no idea how to start this paper. And they'll sit down and talk it out with you, and that's going to help you. So writing is a process. A lot of people forget this. A lot of students think writing means I sit down at my computer the night before the paper is due and I write as much as I can and then I hit print. You're doing it wrong if that's how you do it. It's a process. Here are the steps. Brainstorming or pre-writing. drafting, peer review, revision, and proofreading. So we're going to go through these step by step and talk about them a little bit so that you understand what the steps are that you should be doing and how you can make them work for you. So the most important thing, so brainstorming, pre-writing, as I mentioned, you can look in your Bridging the Difference book, and we'll also talk about it a little more at the end of this lecture. So I'm just going to skip over that and go straight to drafting, which is often the hardest part. So for drafting, don't stop writing. That's the most important thing. Tell yourself it's okay to suck, that terrible ideas are better than no ideas at all. That's why we revise. Just get it down first. You can fix it up later. Be open to what pops into your head. Silence your internal censor, that little voice that says, oh, this is a terrible idea. Why are you even writing this? Don't listen to that guy. Just get it down on paper, and like I said, you can make it better later. So different types of draft. What we could call the shitty first draft or the down draft means just get it down. Just get it from your head onto the paper. And like I said, that is usually the hardest part. Updraft, that means you fix it up. You take your shitty first draft and you make it better. Now you're approaching it really thinking about how can I take these ideas and turn them into an actual good paper. Your dental draft, this comes after peer review. This is the last step before you print it. So you want to check every tooth for cavities and drill if you must. So this is where we get into revision, which I'll talk about in a second. So you want to have a writing schedule in mind to make sure you give yourself plenty of time to complete all the steps in this process. Here's just a sample. I suggest starting a week or so before the actual paper is due, but it's a good idea to think about, when is my paper due? What should I be doing every day? If you break the steps down to getting the paper done into small day-by-day tasks, it's going to be so much easier on you, and it's going to make your paper better in the long run. It's going to get you a much, much better grade than if you just sat down the night before and just banged it out on the keyboard. So, take a look at this sample writing schedule. This has to do with things like, doing some brainstorming, and then getting your draft down, your shitty first draft, starting to do some proofreading, some fixing it up, peer review, revising, and then doing a final proofreading and printing it and turning it in. So your next writing prompts has to do with coming up with your own writing schedule for this paper. So you can use that sample schedule on the previous slide, so you can go back a minute or so and hit pause and look at that schedule. But I want you to give me specific days of the week leading up to when this paper is due and tell me, what are you going to do each day as far as things like brainstorming, getting the first draft down, fixing it up, peer review, revising, final proofreading, printing, that sort of thing. So hit pause, take 5 minutes or so, and write down a writing schedule that you are going to follow for this paper, and then we'll move on. All right. So peer review, I'm not going to talk too much about it because we're going to go over it more later for our next week's lecture. But I do want to say, take it seriously, understand that feedback is always good, it's always helpful, and know that the Writing Center is available for you. Revision. Revision is not proofreading. That's something different. We'll talk about that in a second. Revision means revisioning, reimagining your entire essay. So you want to be prepared to do things like clarify certain points that are not coming across as strongly as you might want them to, getting rid of excess information that's not helping your essay and that might be confusing your readers. You might have to add and cut and rearrange sections in your essay. So you might have a paragraph that's not working where it is in your essay now, but maybe it'll work better somewhere else. You might want to make it the introduction, or your conclusion might not be working, and so you might have to completely redo that. So revision takes some work. It might be the second hardest part because it takes effort and it takes understanding that the draft you have, even if it's good, can always be better. And if you want to get that good grade, you're going to have to do it. So revision is really important. And like I said, peer review, asking me questions, going to the writing center, those are the kinds of things that are going to help you get ideas of what can you do to take that updraft that you have, that kind of middle draft, and turn it into a final really good paper. Proofreading. So proofreading just means look for grammar errors, mechanical errors, formatting errors. Do not rely solely on your computer to find all your mistakes, because it won't, I promise you. Have someone else read your paper. So that's why we have peer review in this class. You can also get help from relatives, roommates. If you can bribe someone, like, hey, I'll buy you a smoothie from Jasmine's if you help me with my paper, look it over, give me some advice. Or, hey, I'll read your paper if you read mine. That kind of like, hey, we both have comp, let's help each other out kind of thing. Or, again, if all else fails, you've always got the writing center at your disposal. But having someone else look over your paper can help you catch mistakes, can help you get ideas of how to make the paper better. So final tips. Make sure your paper is in the right format, MLA format. So that assignment sheet that I gave you has a little section that says format. Use that as a checklist. Go down the list and make sure you're doing all of those things, because that's an easy place to lose points if you're not. Staple your pages in the right order. Do not hand me an unstapled paper. I'm going to hand it right back to you. And if you slip it in there and I don't notice, I'm going to take points off. So other things you want to do, make sure that you're handing in papers on clean white pages. So I don't want something on orange paper because it's hard to read. I don't want something where the ink is blue or fading, or a paper that you dropped and someone stepped on it and now it's got a giant footprint on it. I don't like that. Take some pride in your work. Your paper should be immaculate when you hand it in, because that shows me that you are taking this seriously. Save your paper in multiple places. I cannot tell you how many times I've had a student come up near tears saying, I had to type my whole paper over again last night because my computer died. So constantly save your paper. Save it on your computer, save it on your jump drive, email it to yourself. When you've got the document open and you're writing new things and making changes, constantly be hitting that save button that's at the top, because if you don't, it's very possible that you're going to lose it at some point. It's happened to me. It's happened to all of us. Don't let it happen on your comp papers. And finally, print your paper at least 2 hours before it's due. Why at least 2 hours? Because if you don't, the printer in Sparty's Den is going to break, or there's going to be a long line, or it's going to run out of ink, or there's going to be some kind of problem. And what's going to happen? You're going to come to me in class and say, oh, I couldn't print my paper because, and I'm going to say, sorry, but that's your responsibility. It needs to be in my hand at the beginning of class. So again, treat this like a job. Your boss is not going to be okay if he tells you to complete a project and you show up and say, oh, my printer ran out of ink. I couldn't print it for you. Doesn't fly in the real world. Doesn't fly in my classroom. All right, so here's your final writing prompt. So I want you to go to the website that I've posted the link for on Blackboard. It's got a list of 5 different pre-writing activities. So I want you to look through them, read over the descriptions, choose one of those activities and complete it with your personal argument essay in mind. So this, I'm not giving you a specific length for it, But again, it should take you about 5 minutes. Some of them are things like, cubing and map and cluster and lists and things like that. So again, do it for about 5 minutes. Think about this paper as you're completing it. So these are your 4 writing prompts that you have for this first lecture and assignment. This is what you're going to turn into me in the next class. It's just the notes that you've taken, the answers that you've got for these 4 questions. If you have any questions for me about anything in this lecture, please email me as soon as possible and I'll get back to you. So this concludes our lecture on shitty first drafts. All right, good luck.